afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirits of Matter in a special episode for a shade period or pre-shade period for Venus retrograde in Leo, which is sitting pretty in the ninth right now. The ascendant is Jupiter ruled with Jupiter in the sixth and the ruler of the sixth, that is Venus in the ninth. So Jupiter, Venus, Jupiter, Venus. Jupiter, they Mercury, the midheaven is ruled by Venus. Mercury is in the seventh with the descendant, and interesting because I'm talking also about a partial process for my recovery from childhood CPTSD. Trigger warning everything for this episode, okay? So please, trigger warning everything everything that you can imagine. Trigger warning, please be warned. I'm recovering myself, and that's kind of important. So this is knowledge from experience. It may work for you, it may not, and that's just the way it goes. The moon is in 20 degrees Leo with Mars here, just separating from a trine to Chiron in Aries, and sextiling Mercury. So yes, and I'm talking about the nervous system. So what I'm going to talk about is a certain process that I have partially consciously, partially manifested throughout the years, and I'm going to mention everything I know about what contributed to this process so that you can set intention wherever, in whichever stage you are. Note that this was some of it even 8 years, even more long process. So talking about the Venus stuff. And I'll begin with an anecdote. So I was just watching something related to Venus retrograde, and they asked for stories. I talked about my Meet New Veteranship story, and then I had to stop and regulate my emotions. And when I did it, I just did it with an ice bottle, and I kind of felt like running it across my face, which is, by the way, great for the skin. So I don't know why I felt doing that. The face is ruled by Aries, like its ruler Mars is with Venus, so I have no idea why did I wanted to do just that. But as I was doing that, I was beginning to pay attention that I'm beginning to orgasm from my face, and this is very tantric. So I was beginning to orgasm from my face. To dissociate from that experience, I remembered like the face reflexology, and I was kind of curious about what is the liver, what is the this, what is the that, and remembering the times for around the Me Too veteranship in 2017, I learned about the reflexology of the genitalia, both the penis and the vagina. Actually, as a part of sex education, a company that I worked for in Australia. So which was a part of my pleasure culture instead of rape culture. So I was like concentrating what I want to do, what I want, rather than the trauma alone, and as a part of the recovery. And the entire thing was kind of like, oh, I'm orgasming the trauma away. It's like I'm regulating my emotions, not only with ice, but also with temperature. It's bringing yourself back to the body, literally orgasming the trauma away, because that is kind of a purge. And I talked about purging orgasms or purging sexuality a while ago before I began to talk about astrology. So that was probably in 2019 or 2018. Anyway, I want to go about everything that I remember that got me to this point where I'm having an emotional flashback. I grab an ice bottle and I'm starting to orgasm, which is basically quite privileged relative to the things that I'm dealing with as recovery from CPTSD. And I want to mention everything that contributed to this point so that if that works for you, please, you may be in a situation where just think it like you not only can you not orgasm, but you cannot touch yourself, or you cannot do self pleasure, or you tend to hurt yourself or fantasize about harmful stuff. Like whichever stage you're at is okay, and I want you to take that as something that is a possibility, not something that you must do or something that you have to do, or to think of things as wrong if it's not happening. Okay, I'm 39 years old. This is the first time that I experienced what I just described. This literally orgasming the trauma away. So I'm going to begin with actually the first time I encountered the relation between oxytocin and release of sexual trauma. I was a student in the academia, and my thesis was about my thesis proposal. I actually didn't write the thesis. And it was just approved as a proposal, and then many things, and me too. So the thing is, I was learning about the changing brain, and locality versus the other one of the brain, which I support the other one, of course, and learning about the hormones, and oxytocin. Oxytocin is an unlearning hormone. I was also reading about there was an episode about sexuality that mentioned actually the relations between trauma and the developing brain in sex, and how having an orgasm in a certain way can wire the brain, and how when we tend to trauma, we sometimes, not all cases, it really does depend on so many phases with this. I may get into it in another video. It's just that this is even difficult for me to track, and I want to give you valid information as much as I can. So I realized that there's a role to oxytocin release that is responsible for unlearning, which is responsible for learning. So you think about learning as consisting as unlearning. think about class, okay? A moment of distanciation in favor of us all. So think about class. You're studying math in your childhood, and then you're studying the numbers, and you're probably studying from 1 to 10, and people don't talk about zero, and then they kind of tell you, well, you can't divide in zero. Then you get to, I don't know where, if you proceed with your mathematic studies, and then you learn that in some cases you do divide in zero. And it's like, why do you, like, what? Or you study the x as a multiplication, and then it becomes a dot, okay? So in order to update your knowledge, you have to unlearn what you've learned from the previous phase, okay? If I try to connect it with the process of recovery, depending on where you are in the process, it's both non-linear, and it's not a telos that everybody goes to the same direction, okay? So recovery looks completely differently for different people. So for example, let's say you were the kind of person who would not have any sexual interactions with everyone. So there's a certain phase where that means for you saying no. And then there's another certain phase where you're like, well, if I'm not in a position that I cannot say yes to something without having bad implications, there's actually never a no and never a yes. Okay, I'm actually not choosing both when I'm avoiding and when I'm not avoiding. Or if you're the type of person that has non-volitional sexual encounters, then not abstaining from sex or having a situation where like you're going to the other way around, you're unlearning that previous stage, and you kind of need that. So oxytocin allows you to go through the phases. This is also true if you're dealing with addiction, which is also a part of trauma, right? and they can be various. Addiction is not just heroin. Usually, most addiction to drugs is actually to prescribed drugs, and there's so many things that addiction is a pattern. It's not necessarily a substance. So anyway, going back to where I started. So I kind of encountered the notion of using oxytocin to unlearn something, and in a connection of unlearning trauma. If I'm not mistaken, Dan Siegel also talks about in the mind's wait, is the mind is no it has the mind. The mind's eye, I think, is Douglas Hofstadter's completely different subject. It has nothing to do with trauma, recovery from trauma. Just memories of Douglas Hofstadter right now. Sorry. Um, so that was on a cognitive level, and then of course it inspired a desire in me to recover, and the possibility that oxytocin or release of oxytocin could somehow contribute. Other things is that I simply asked. Okay, it's not about who you ask, or just ask, express an intention, express something to experience joy in life, because I didn't know or understand. It doesn't mean that I didn't experience joy. It's just that I wasn't aware of it, and I didn't. If somebody would ask me, what makes you happy, I would not know what to tell them. Or when was the time where you felt happy in life? It was not accessible to me. I'm not saying it wasn't, it was just not accessible to me at that time. And I asked to be able to experience happiness and joy. And I remember I spoke with someone who said that before she met her partner, she used to in two people like this, and one of them was survivor of CPTSD as well, and sexual assault and whatnot. So she said before she met her husband, she used to envision like a man holding her, and something like that, like the love that she desires. And they asked me to sort of like, well, you can imagine the love that you desire. And I'm like, I can't get to that experience, so I just ask for a reference for what would it be like to be held, or to have this basically facilitator of oxytocin release that helps you to unlearn trauma and study something new, like what does it feel like being safe, which I recently had an experience of, and that was amazing, and that was like wow. It was wow. um, so all these things, there were things I'm talking about almost a decade ago. Okay, so I just want you to get the picture. I'm 39 years old now. It was after my Saturn return, around my Saturn, like before my Saturn maturation, and even during into my Saturn maturation, like I'm talking about this now. And it's very initial in me as I'm talking about this now. So the reason I'm saying this is not to discourage you, but rather so that you get validation. It may happen way sooner for you. For most people around me, it did. But I just want you to understand that if it doesn't happen immediately for you, or if you listen to my video and you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, or what is setting an intention, who do I ask? Just like ask in the air, ask in your mind or something. Then that's totally okay. You're absolutely not okay in the like, that's why I'm saying that. It's not that you can expect that it would be difficult, but rather that if it is not easy, know that you're absolutely not alone with this, and it's just you're okay. Anyway, so I was watching. It was actually Teal Swan, and I know she's a controversial figure, but I'm also like I'm being authentic about where I got my information. And I was watching Teal Swan talking about using orgasms for positive affirmations. Um, and I don't think I ever managed to do that, because it was always frightening and scary and triggering. But it was a part of where I kind of set my intention to to orgasm in a positive way, to orgasm from good things, to orgasm in a way that where I unlearn anything to do with trauma and learn safe and joy and intimacy and whatnot. Um, so that was one facet of it. Another facet that I do want to mention here, I'm not going to go too deep in length because I am trying to give valid information, and I try to do this once I erase the video, not because I have a problem with talking about sexuality, but because I wasn't 100% sure I'm giving valid knowledge. So I don't want to mislead anybody, but there was a phase, and I don't know how much it contributed or not, where if I would have like disturbing fantasies or something like that, I would just zoom in into them, which would end up in me just wanting to be held by a father or wanting to be held by someone, having intimacy or being safe as a child. And it expressed itself through weird so it's like kind of like you zoom in, you zoom in, you zoom in, you zoom in. Eventually I'm a child that just wants to be held. So that was also part of the process. If you see places where I'm saying I'm a little or little plus panda, which is my stuffy, and I have a bunch of stuffies now, including my moon candle, which I made as a talisman from the moon in Cancer, and it became a stuffy. I have moon in Cancer in the 5th. Anyway, out of balance in conjunct Uranus, and well, it's like the fine lines. Out of balance in conjunct Uranus. For the astrologers, if you're not an astrologer, it was just an inside joke about the state of the moon and how it can be very chaotic in your life as a child, romantic life, and sexual drama. But if you're not an astrologer and you don't care about this, you can just like, whatever, that was just a joke. Anyway, so that was another thing that was a part of it. So I was not denying, if I had disturbing fantasies, I was not denying them. There was a time where I was zooming into them, and then there was a time where I was just like, stop. I don't want that noise interfering in my pleasure. Okay, like no, this is not what I like. And that was also a part of the process. And this is why I had such difficulty sharing, because it's difficult to tell when do you want to zoom in when you have a disturbing fantasy, or when do you want to just say, well, this is noise. Like, this is not what, like, I want a different type of orgasm for myself. Thank you. And that's also something that I want to say. So, oxytocin release. So I talked about oxytocin release. I talked about setting intentions. More so, I've learned to hold myself or hug myself in joining. To me, the point of intention and setting intention was big. It was big. Another thing I've learned is about astrology, and there was a time where I even elected the times where I would self-pleasure and the times that I would avoid doing so. Okay, that you need to have a more astrological knowledge to do this yourself. Of course, you're not going to book a reading every time you want to self-pleasure, but it's something that can contribute, especially being aware of the transits of the moon and what it may bring. And of course, as you know, learning radical acceptance is just set intention to do so. Okay, just a set intention, say, I want to have radical acceptance. I want to learn radical acceptance. I want to radically accept myself. That is a great part of recovery. Back when CPTSD used to be described as borderline, I encountered this teaching about radical acceptance as recovering from borderline. Today, I both laugh and not laugh about it, because at the time it really seemed like, oh my God, what is happening with me? But now in retrospective, I get that that's just like that's trauma, and people who feel like a chased animal act violent to make sure that they are safe. And so setting the intention to feel safe, of course, blah, blah, blah. Also, the intention you need to understand is both your internal experience and to feel and to be. So, to feel safe and to be safe, and to understand that I'm safe when I'm safe, okay? And to do the right things in alignment with this sense of safety and joy and ease and whatnot. So that's different in different times. So those are also things that were a part of it. You can see how much goes into a moment, okay? How much goes into a process, how many years, how much knowledge, how much both time and dedication, but also letting things go and kind of concentrating on other stuff too. More things, of course, learning about sensual regulation and sensual pleasure. Tantra is not about sex, okay? Tantra, in essence, and with Jupiter in Taurus, is such a great time to talk about this. In the sixth house, which is the house of health and physical health. So basically, all those teaching embodied, being embodied. I read a comment that says it's so ableistic to tell everybody to be embodied. Wow, I'm so with you. This is so true. That's why I'm saying setting intention. Some people cannot. I've heard people who tried, and it happened to me too, try to let's say self pleasure, and they were not alone in their body, so it was kind of impossible to enjoy that. And sometimes that can actually be the source of joy if it's something good. So that can be like to both end. And this is why when I say setting intention, stating your desire is something that can help. Another thing that is, of course, helpful is working with the moon. So on the Sphere and Sundry Moon collection, there was a big warning worded horribly. It's not for Caitlin's fault because people don't understand open dialogue, so they don't know that there's no such thing as psychosis. Basically, she talked about non-volitional, non-dual experiences, which we all have, most of us. And she was just saying, well, she felt insane when she was trying this. Yeah, okay, she had non-volitional, non-dual experiences, and she gave a correct warning that if you have a person that has a tendency to these type of experiences, which you may feel like I'm not in connection with my body, I'm not in my body, blah 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 blah. I don't want to say this like this is, these are not the affirmations that I practice, but you may experience different types of that, of disconnect from the body, disconnect from what you seem like reality or so. One of the knowledge that I hear over and over again, and not only for me, but for many people who dealt with non-volitional, non-dual experiences, dissociations, flashbacks, or psychic attacks, is that when they are in the environment that is good for them, if they will have a non-volitional, non-dual experience, it will be something positive. Okay, I would have like my inner voices telling jokes to me, diverting my attention, reminding me how far I've grown, all that. Okay, it's just like the inner critic turns into the inner cheerleader, and it is also something you can just say, I desire for that to happen. Even by merit of you're listening to this video and wanting to experience that, you're already setting that desire. So, sowing seeds. It's a good little mention to sow seeds. So these are also type of seed sowing. And that was another thing that was involved in the creation of this. And so I eventually ended up doing my own moon talisman, and it is very reflective. So this is not a prescription. There are many ways to work with the moon. Set an intention to heal your moon, heal your, have safe attachment, or safe attachment is perhaps not the right word for everybody, but definitely work with the moon positively or something like that. That is one great thing. Working with Venus and Jupiter, another great thing. So for Jupiter, and I have Jupiter related videos. There was a time I was giving Jupiter related readings. I'm thinking about doing them again, because if Jupiter is like, it doesn't matter if it's within sect or outside of sect. Jupiter is about having a sense that the philosophy, a worldview, a passion in life, that's beyond the self, belief. Venus is more of values, the way your love language, and stuff like that. So there are many ways to practice, to learn about love language, to do the silly things, whether it's standing in front of your mirror, which to me it's sometimes still a hard practice. Like there are times, ever since I was a child, observation was something that I'm still working with. Like both my luminaries in conjunct Uranus, and that makes for an unusual side pattern. But it can also be contributing to enjoying science and remedying that through that. Anyway, so that's the astrological part. Concerning Mars, I believe Tantra teachings that lead your setting intention to connect with your body, and that includes genitalia. Like I said, Tantra is not about sex, it's about immersion in the sensual pleasure that can be of eating a fruit, of putting an icy bottle next to your face tenderly and orgasming from that on a hot summer day. And like I said, it might not happen to you immediately. Okay, for me, it was a form of dissociation. And that is what I have to say about Tantra. It's about enjoying your senses, so texture. And of course, when you are overwhelmed, then you can focus on something external. I like painting too, but you can like count the leaves, or focus on your logic, or just observe what's outside. Just observe without, and if you can, like sometimes, like that is, everything I say can be something that you can't do. Whichever of these you can implement, that is something that's for you now, and you can set intention for the rest if it is helpful for you. And one really big thing when I was learning about the 12th house, the 12th house is both traumas, isolation, jail, hospital, exile, death in prison, whatnot. It's also the bedroom. Okay, so just today or yesterday I had a thought about this, and yeah, I was thinking about the Temamundi. I was thinking about our inherent structure of conceptualizing the world, and how that might need to be changed so we can have better sex, easier, like better life creation. It's procreation eventually, on a holistic level, whether you have living children out of it or not. And when I was learning about this house of self-undoing and blah blah blah, and what you don't see that you don't see, what you don't know that you don't know, it's the 12th house. Okay, what you know that you don't know is kind of like your ninth. What you think you know can also be a ninth, I don't know, but or your Mercury. But what you don't know that you don't know is the 12th. But but swept under the rug is the 8th. So I was thinking about, I was literally setting intention for my unconscious to work in my favor, and to work in a way that's supportive and nourishing for me, and so on and so forth. As I was icing my face, orgasming, learning about this like reflexology of the face again, remembering the reflexology stuff, like the meridian based, and which of course is also related to Sedna, which is going over my current, by the way. And the moon applying to no, it was trying it in another day, but never mind. Yeah, it was Gemini. Oh, the descendant was applying. No, the descendant was not applying. sadness at the beginning. If this is in zero Gemini, I don't know what was triggering it. Anyway, meridian-based healing. Then I remembered that, oh my gosh, I had set my mind. I had set my mind and set an intention. So that I set my mind, I had set my unconsciousness to work favorably for me to literally orgasm the trauma away and have pleasurable experiences like that supposedly intellectual dissociation, and to be embodied enough to notice when I need to take that bottle, when I need to stop, where I have the inner voices tell me to stop, where I have the breathing out of the body, where everything is supportive me on a conscious and unconscious and spiritual level. I have to share it with the world, okay? I have to share it with people. I have to allow for this information to be accessible without free of charge. And that is where ascendant ingresses into Saturn. And of course, it's still Mercury hour. And the descendant is on the sun that is ingressed into Cancer. Yeah. And the ice is approaching Chiron. So simply put, I just had to make this knowledge accessible. I want you to have this. There are so many things here. You might want to listen over and over again. You might want to listen when you're able to. You might want to list the things that I listed here. If you have questions, then put them in the comments. And please put them in the comments, okay? Please do not DM me about this episode. I'm recovering from CVSD, okay? I don't want to not go over my Twitter or not schedule interviews with people because I can't go over my Twitter. Like, please, just if you have questions, whenever you are ready, even open a fake account and put it in the comments, only in this comment section, so that I know that I'm only receiving comments for this. If I happen to deactivate the comments, it's because I'm in recovery and I may deactivate comments for this video to kind of regulate my own stuff as Venus is going through those certain points that were involved with everything of it. This is an episode that is totally knowledge from experience. It's totally, whether you have therapy, whether you were hurt in therapy and you have nobody that can help you, which I know so many people deal with in this age and time, whether you have non-dual experiences, whether you can't orgasm, it's not even about, like, the orgasm is a blessed side effect, and whatnot. It's just whatever works for you here, and it may set it so that right now you are setting the stage and I'm just like passing the torch. So you're getting this information now. Feel free to ask questions whenever I'm able to. I will try to answer, and I hope this benefits you. Please do not just share it with people, because it's not that I don't want it shared. It's just that if somebody asks you for information, for help, for what can help them, then you can share that. You can share that on your page, but do not send it directly to someone unless you really know that they want it. Because, like I said, this is trigger everything, okay? And anything that has orgasm in it is trigger everything, because orgasm is release of purged everything. Is kind of resetting, it's alchemizing our entire nervous system and our soul and whatnot. So they can touch a lot of people, and I wanted to have the best effect on, like, everyone who watches it. Yeah, that was that. If the astrology is to elaborate for you, this is not inviting you to have a reading with me. It's none of that. It's not marketing. It's just passing on the torch and delivering the knowledge that I have to deliver at this point. So thank you for watching. I will, yeah, I think I'll just upload it right now by the Ascendant, and let's hope for good. Let's have it like Saturn in Pisces retrograde honoring as well for those people who are left out in the cold from healing and don't have healing, whether you're one of them or not. Let's hold a candle for the people who feel like they have to go at it alone, and spread as much free information that can be useful in the way that can be useful. So thank you very much. Bye bye.